Hey everybody, Mike Dillard here, and welcome to part number 6 out of 7 in our Build Your Business, Build Your Wealth training series. And today, I'm going to show you how you can turn the money from your business into real passive income, and then through that passive income, you can obtain true financial freedom. And one of the neat parts about today's video is that I'm going to actually walk you through an investment that I've personally made. I'm going to show you how it did, and I'm going to show you who I made it with. But before I do that, I want to point out why this strategy is so important to your financial security and prosperity by comparing it to what most other people do. So if you look at the typical American family or retirement strategy, it basically sounds something like this. You work your butt off for about 40 years, putting money into a savings account or a mutual fund or an IRA or a 401k, and you do this with one objective in mind, and that's to have enough money or a big enough nest egg to sustain you for the rest of your life once you retire around the age of 60 or 65. So, basically 40 years to build up, this nice big shiny pile of cash right here that you have to live off of and that slowly declines every single month. And so when that retirement day comes, what you have is what you have, right? There's not going to be any more meaningful amounts of money being contributed to that pile on a monthly basis. So you then have to sit down and you have to try and guess how much longer you're going to live and how much money you're going to need to spend each month on food and on bills, health insurance, car insurance, and everything else that you're going to need to sustain yourself, let alone go on some vacations and have some fun to enjoy that retirement. So in other words, your income stops, but your expenses continue, all right? So the only option that you have to pay those expenses is to consume the money that you've accumulated, which means every single month you get poorer. Think about that. Every single month you get more poor. So what would happen to your business if you pursued this same strategy? If you stopped selling products and producing income today, but your business expenses continued? You'd go insolvent, you'd go bankrupt. So 99% of the people in America, along with the financial industry's brilliant plan for your retirement, is insolvency. Do you understand how ridiculous and backwards that is? So if you're following this strategy of accumulating money and then keeping your fingers crossed that you're going to have enough once you're too old to work, then you're systematically working towards your own bankruptcy. All right, so once the money runs out, you're forced to live off Social Security through the government, and really basically at a level of poverty. So obviously we're going to say screw that, and we're going to do the exact opposite. So our goal is to build a business that produces cash and then use that cash to invest in assets that produce more cash on a passive basis every single month, and then that cash flow is used to build wealth and sustain our lifestyle while we never spend a penny from this money that we've accumulated or the principal, all right? So let me walk you through a real world example of how I've done that so that you can really model that and do the same if you'd like. First and foremost, we obviously need to find an asset to invest in that does, once again, two things. One, produces cash flow, and two, reduces taxes. And that's going to become a very important part of our strategy here coming up in the next couple of minutes. So that basically leaves us with three options. We have commercial real estate. So let's do A. So real estate. B is oil and gas, which has cash flow components and tax advantages. And then C, our final option here, is other businesses like car washes, billboards, laundromats, whatever it may be. And in the case of commercial real estate, and really all of these things, but in commercial real estate like the deal that I'm going to walk you through here in just a few minutes, the after-tax return is exactly the same as the pre-tax return. And that's because real estate gets a magic deduction of depreciation. And depreciation basically offsets the taxable income without costing any money. So unlike a 401k or an IRA, where you eventually pay high taxes, a real estate investment like this can give you a nice return without the taxes, and that's going to play as I mentioned, a very important role in creating what I have named, or what I term, a wealth spiral, and we're going to talk about that here later in this video. All right, so moving on, the next thing that we're going to do is make sure that finding and managing these investments takes as little of our time as possible. So why is that? That's because the single biggest return on investment you can make as an entrepreneur is your own company. It's your own business. So, as an example, if you take the $3.2 million in revenue that EVG made and you divided it by the startup costs that I incurred, let's just say, I think it was around $5,000. Let's make the numbers easy here for the math in my head. Let's say it was about $10,000 to build and start that business. What's the initial return on that investment in the first 7 days, right? 32,000%, I believe it would be, in less than 90 days from when I came up with the idea to launching, the company and acquiring revenue. 32,000%, where are you going to get that kind of return in 90 days anywhere? You can't, it's impossible. Your own business is the only way that you can do that, either by starting a new one, launching new products, new marketing campaigns, whatever it may be. So we want to make sure that that's where our time, continues to stay focused. And one of Warren Buffett's most famous quotes is, invest in what you know. Well, as an entrepreneur, I'm not a master, when it comes to real estate or oil and gas or the stock market, but I am a master when it comes to building businesses that produce cash flow. So that's why I need to stay focused on my business 100% of the time, and why you need to do the same. So how do we actually get our money working for us? That's the big $1 million question here. And if you don't have the time or the desire to learn and master investment strategies like these, well, what do? Well, it's very simple. You acquire a team of people who have. And that's exactly what I did. So I found the best real estate investors that I could find several years ago, and I invested my money with them. So in reality, I'm not investing in an apartment complex. I'm investing in people and their track record and their level of expertise, because they're the ones that are going to go out and find this deal. They're going to close it, they're going to manage it, and they're going to eventually sell it, because I can't spend the next 20 years of my life mastering commercial real estate, investing as they have. So the two best firms that I've found when it comes to this and that I've done business with is Thrive here in Austin, run by my friends JP and Adrian, and MC Companies out of Scottsdale, which is run by my good friend Ken McElroy, who many of you all will recognize from his work with Robert Kiyosaki and the Rich Dad team. So here's a picture of the very first apartment that I ever invested in, and this was with JP and Adrian, and it's called Hidden Oaks down in San Antonio, Texas, which is where I was born. And now there are basically two requirements that you have to meet in order to invest in a firm like JP's or Ken's. And the first is you have to be an accredited investor. And basically the terms or the qualifications for that means you have to have a net worth of at least $1 million, which does not include the value of your primary residence, or you have to have an income of at least $200,000 per year for the last 2 years. So greater than $200,000 per year, or a net income or net worth, that's greater than $1 million. So if you meet either one of these qualifications, you're considered accredited. And then the second qualification that you've got to have to work with these types of firms is basically to meet their minimum investment requirement for a share in a deal, which is typically $100,000. I haven't found a firm yet that will let you invest in one of their projects for less than $100,000 per share, because it's just not very practical for them from a paperwork perspective when they've got a $20 million deal. So what if you don't have $100,000, right? What if you're not accredited yet? You just turn this off, move on with your life, forget about it. I would suggest that you don't. That simply means that you're in a position right now, which is where I was, and frankly every other entrepreneur has been, which is that you need to spend 100% of your time and energy on growing your business and building your income until you reach that point. And I can definitely help you do that, because that's really what I'm good at. So nonetheless, this information is extremely important to you right now, even if you don't have the money, because it's going to help you create the right kind of goal. It's going to help you see where you want to end up and where you want to go. And it's really going to help you aim your intentions toward that goal, as we discussed in video number 1, right? When I was dead broke and living in my $300 a month apartment complex and doing my laundry at a laundromat with quarters, right? That's where I was in that position. But because I stayed focused on where I was going, now I can do stuff like this. And the same is going to be true for you. So how did the project go? How did that investment work out? Well, very, very well. And in fact, I ended up writing them a check for a share in the complex for $100,000. They applied their expertise to the deal, obviously, and ran the whole thing. And over the next 2 years, I made $32,000 in profit, which is obviously a 32% return, or as I like to think of it, an extra $16,000 per year in passive income. All right, so we'll put those numbers up here for you real quick. $100,000 turned into $132,000 over 2 years, or $16,000 per year in passive income that I did not have to do anything to earn. All right, so total amount of time I spent on that, 0. Maybe 2 hours to to look over the deal and sign the paperwork, which means that this is real passive income. I think it's funny how most people in the network marketing industry sell that industry on the passive income it can create, and yet I don't know anyone who's ever been in that industry that doesn't continue to work their ass off every single day building their businesses. It provides leverage, but I haven't seen it provide real passive income. This is real passive income. If it doesn't take your time to do or to make over the course of 2 years, that's what we're looking for. So I didn't have to spend months reading courses, going to classes on real estate. I didn't have to hunt down and negotiate a deal. I didn't have to go out and find the investors to bring it to life. I don't have to go and fix the toilets or deal with the tenants, any of that stuff, which means I could stay 100% focused on my number one investment, which is once again my business, with the goal of making another $100,000 during that next 12 months through my business for a second investment, right? Just because you make one doesn't mean you're going to stop there. So I continued to work on my business. Let's say I made another 100 grand over the course of the next year that I can then invest, okay? So let's see how those numbers continue to pan out. I could take the $132,000 that I've now got from this very first investment, and I could go spend it. I could go buy a new car and spend it as normal income, and I'd be taxed accordingly. And so in that case, that means I'd pay about $13,000 of that back to the government in the form of taxes. Or I could reinvest that money into a second apartment complex and make even more money and pay nothing in taxes, all right? So listen to this very carefully. We've all heard the saying that the rich get richer. Well, here is why that takes place. Once you start using this investment strategy, it basically forces you to become richer every single year because you only have two options. You can take the money that you made and you can send it to the IRS, or you can take the money that you made and you can invest it again in another deal, in which case you will make even more money and pay no taxes. All right, so this is what I call a wealth spiral. So obviously, we're gonna take that $132,000, and because we've been able to keep working on our business and not have to dick around with this apartment complex ourselves, we're gonna be able to save up another 100 grand to add to the pool, giving us a total of $232,000 to put into a second apartment complex. So let's go ahead and get a new sheet for that. So this time around, we've got $232,000 to invest. And let's go ahead and say that we got the exact same 16% return per year. Obviously, there's no guarantees in investing. Really, the only way to reduce your risk and increase your chances of earning a return is through your expertise, right? And that's why I only work with the best people that I can find. So let's say 232,000 at 16% return per year. How do these numbers start to work? And remember, every single time we cash out this deal, whether it's a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, we've got two choices. We either send that money to the IRS, or we take it and we invest it in another deal and pay no taxes, all right? So year number one, we're gonna come up with, let me see, $269,120. which is not a big deal. Obviously, compounding interest is going to be the real big one here. So when we get to year number 5, that's going to grow to $1,174,000 and some change. Year number 10. And year number 10, that is going to come out to $3,155,000 and change. And then year number 20 is obviously where compounding interest kicks in and it starts to get really exciting. And this is a 3 million, not 13. Year 20 is $16 million and 52,000 and change. So obviously this is a theoretical example, but what I really want to demonstrate with you right here is how the wealth spiral works. This is why the rich continue to get richer. So what if you had to pay taxes all along the way? You know, most investors are paying taxes either as they sell and reinvest the proceeds, or when they take their money out of their IRA. So if you paid taxes along the way, here are the numbers that you'd have and how much different they would be. Year number 1, $254,000 and change. Year number 2 is going to be 2.143, so $2,143,000. Excuse me, year number 5, I'm sorry. All right, so year number 5, you're going to come up with $972,000 roughly. And that brings us to year number 10, which is 2.1 million. I think it's $143,000 basically. And then year number 20 is where things start to get really crazy if you don't follow this plan. Year number 20, your return goes from $16 million down to $6,920-something thousand, I believe, in change when you incorporate the taxes into this. So this is actually a strategy that my CPA, Tom Wheelwright, wrote a book about, and it's called Tax-Free Wealth. So if you go check out Amazon or his website or whatever it may be, you can actually buy that book, Tax-Free Wealth. And it's all about this strategy, which is obviously well worth the time to read if it can save you 10 million bucks or make you 10 million bucks over the course of 20 years. So this is why you have to have both components in the investments that you're looking for. It's got to provide you with a good solid return without a lot of your personal time involved, and it has to create that wealth and help you build your wealth in a tax preferred way, a tax advantage manner. So that brings us to our 7th and final video, and we've obviously been talking about some very high level strategic thinking here over the past week when it comes to setting your goals, building your businesses, and turning your active income into passive income. Well, tomorrow I'm going to share some of my biggest lessons learned that will allow you to build a long-term career as an entrepreneur so that you can build this kind of 20-year wealth in your life. Far too many entrepreneurs play the short game, in my opinion. They don't keep the big picture in mind, and as a result, they just end up spinning their wheels and making short-term decisions for short-term gains, and they have to start over again from scratch, and they never really build anything, and they just don't go anywhere. So we're going to cover that in our 7th and final part in this series. Thanks so much for joining me here in video number 6 today. Keep an eye on your inbox, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.